the culture of impunity, what to do about it, how to go about it. These are some of the issues we'll be tackling today, and a lot more. Ikechukwu Ikeji joins us this morning. He's a legal practitioner and also the Executive Secretary, Constitutional Rights and People's Development Advocacy Initiative. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for.
I mean, it was also recently where they had this gathering. Former head of state Ernest Shonekan, Ghanaian former president Jerry Rawlings, lots of eminent other Nigerians also present. And that wasn't even the first of the gatherings, as you also saw this previous one by the governor of Lagos, Babatunde Fashola, talking about how to stem the tide of the culture of impunity. But I also did hear CBN governor some time ago say, look, countries are corrupt across the world. It's a global phenomenon. But they have structures in place. They put in punitive measures for offenders. But the case, that doesn't seem to be the case here. And that's where he thinks the difference is. You heard a lot about this one.
Yes, yes.
What do you think?
Well, I think we have a worse monster than official corruption in the name and form of impunity. In fact, the very foundation of this present democratic dispensation is based on impunity, because the constitution itself upon which we are operating is also a deceit. It's also telling a lie against itself, and brazenly the government operates it and keeps calling it democracy. You know, they want us to believe that it is constitutional democracy, but what we have is military democracy. It's a military decree that is in play in the form of constitution, and the government is operating it with so much pomp and pageantry. That shows you the level of impunity that we have. Impunity pervades the society presently. We have official corruption, but the way this official corruption is being taken, the way it's being taken to the next level, talks so much about the level of impunity that we have. I want to give you a very good example of what the rate of impunity in Nigeria. We recall that the 2012 Appropriation Act budgeted 200 billion naira, if I'm correct, 200 billion naira, thereabouts, for subsidy in 2012. How much did we end up spending? We ended up spending 2.2 trillion naira. And nobody has raised questions. We have the National Assembly. Now, it's a simple principle that an Appropriation Act is a law. And it's also a simple principle that when a law is broken, that there ought to be some kind of remedy, there ought to be some kind of punitive measures. The Appropriation Act was broken in 2012 by the over-expenditure to the tune of 2 trillion naira, and nobody has, for now, up to today, said anything in terms of the remedy that should follow such impunity. And that is pervasive impunity. We still have military mentality amongst us, amongst our leaders. Our leaders still exude that military power impunity in them, because when they make statements over sweeping. They have the penchant to use the word must. We must clear the road. We must demolish that building to effect this. We must do that. We must do that. That is just impunity.
But you know, there are those who also think that chief of the institutions that they think should be in the front lines to eradicate or stem this tide of the culture of impunity, so-called, is the judiciary. Do you disagree with that?
You recall the events of between 1999 and 2007, during the last presidential dispensation before Musa Yar'Adua, the Obasanjo administration. You recall how orders of the judiciary were errantly and rampantly disobeyed and disregarded by government. You recall that the Supreme Court decided and held that money belonging to the local governments in Lagos State should be given back to them, and it was never done. It was never done until Yar'Adua came to power and released that money. So it is not just about the judiciary. Yes, there is the judicial impunity too, when some judges descend into the arena and start dancing to the beats of litigants, start dancing to the beats of politicians. That is impunity. But it goes also beyond that to also showcase a situation where even the government themselves lead the way in disrespecting and disobeying court orders.
Your theory is very interesting. You've tried to trace it from you know, the source of our Constitution.
Yes.
A host of people wouldn't agree with you.
Yes.
That, you know, it has to be something that we all decide. They say oftentimes that it is how we've decided to follow the laws, not because of where the laws themselves came from.
Yes, you see, laws are different from the Constitution. You must always at all times differentiate those two principles. The principle of a constitution is different from the principle of a law. The Constitution